Andrew Hotham is, for me, probably the most talented defenseman we've ever had at the Cardiff Devils. He could score goals, he could defend, he was aggressive, and he was clutch. Big games, Andrew Hotham always turned up. He's been hard to replace. For me, as a complete package, Andrew Hotham is probably at the top of my list.
Fantastic hockey player. I remember when we played against him, it was, we obviously do our pre-scout on the TV and watch clips of the opposing team, and every time we played Cardiff, about 50% of it was Andrew Hotham this, Andrew Hotham that. I think he's probably the most complete defenseman that's ever played in this league. Kind of fanboying over him, but no, he was a fantastic hockey player.
The first idea was an incident that happened in Sheffield, where there's two fans that weren't as welcomed as they should have been watching an ice hockey game. It made me think that maybe people here in Cardiff also didn't feel welcome, and made me think that we needed to step up and show them that everybody's welcome to be here. I spoke to Todd Kelman, our managing director, first. He was receptive right away, and I think felt that we also needed to send a message that we don't agree with what happened there, and we don't have the same views as what was said.
In the heat of battle, when you're meant to be thinking of games and you're meant to be thinking of results and you're meant to be thinking of your job on the ice, the fact that Andrew Hotham stuck up for what he believed in, again, I just think that speaks to the character of him.
I don't know, it happened near me, and I had a voice that was able to do something about it. I thought it was inclusive and everybody felt comfortable to come to ice hockey. And then when a situation like that happens, and I realized, and it was eye-opening for me that that kind of behavior was still going on, then I felt like I want to take a stand against that and let people know that just because someone said something in an arena doesn't mean that that's how everybody in ice hockey feels, and specifically as the Cardiff Devils.
I think it's amazing that nobody had ever thought of it, nobody had ever done it before in hockey, especially over here. And he was opening himself up to a lot of criticism as well. If I think back to 8 years ago, he was opening himself up to having homophobic slurs aimed towards him. Why are you doing this? Is this because you are? Yeah, I think it was extremely brave of him to do it.
Never even thought about it. Quite frankly, it doesn't matter. It's what was right, and whatever came past that, it doesn't matter. To see it take off the way it has is just amazing. I thought it was going to be good, but I didn't realize how receptive everybody in the arena was going to be to the game. And I don't think it was till a few months later that I really understood the impact that it had on others. And I felt pretty proud of myself to be able to bring that game and inclusivity with the Cardiff Devils, and I was proud of the organization and my teammates for really stepping up and creating a voice for people.
I think it kind of, again, shows that he was doing it for the right reasons. He wasn't doing it for himself. He wasn't doing it to become more famous or put the spotlight on him. He was just doing it because it was the right thing to do. He's changed people's lives. And to go one step further, he's probably saved some people's lives who felt that they couldn't go to sporting events and couldn't feel part of a community.
Glasgow fans brought a big banner for the playoffs just before the first semi-final faced off. And it just said, "Hockey is for everyone." And it was in pride colours, and the whole arena stood up and applauded.
It's a lot more powerful than that it was just the fans that took it upon themselves and went, "We're doing this." We're not asking for permission.
It's huge in that it's so hard sometimes outside of dedicated LGBTQ spaces to be sure there are spaces you belong. All of this visibility across the league makes it feel like many of these rinks are safe and accessible to us as a community.
I've had other conversations with players on other teams about Pride Night and how receptive and positive they felt towards the game and the night. So I think as a whole, the entire league was on the same page.
You see every team in the league now getting involved with things, and ice hockey is probably one of the sports I'd say at the forefront of this sort of thing, and I'm proud and humbled to be a part of that as well when we run that on game night.
Andrew Hotham was a player for the Cardiff Devils who really spearheaded the involvement of the Devils in the You Can Play initiative. The Devils became the first European sports team to get involved at that time, and to see what it's grown into now, I think a stick tap to Andrew Hotham and with support from Paul Sullivan at that time, but kind of laying the foundations here in Cardiff for a night like tonight.
I take great pride in that. That's still going. The fact that it's as popular now as it was our first year is quite amazing, and yeah, it spreads some better messages league wide. Everybody's kind of getting on board, having a pride night, welcoming everybody throughout the country to come and watch.
Yeah, when I found out there was going to be a league-wide Pride Night, I think I was terrified. They announced it before the start of the season. I hadn't even considered kind of attacking my inner thoughts. I've always been very good at, when I'm playing hockey, there's no outside life that gets involved with that. And I kind of realised that I couldn't separate the two anymore.
Yeah, I remember Zach Sullivan coming out very well. It was a real pivotal moment, I think, for the Pride campaign.
These things, in some ways, unfortunately, still make headlines in that if any kind of sports player who is not in basically the women's game, which is infuriating on some levels, comes out, then it's headline news. And just being massively impressed that in this quite hyper-masculine sport, this very straight sport, that he had been able to come out and to talk about it really honestly.
I remember Zach coming out.
Hopefully, having a league-wide Pride Night and the idea really taking off, gave him the courage to come out and speak about his sexuality.
I didn't think I'd ever tweet or put on my Instagram that I was bisexual, but when it was getting closer and closer, and the video that all the guys did around the league about being inclusive, I thought was quite powerful.
I want my teammates to know I have their back. I want our game to be a safe place for everyone on the ice and in the stands.
If you can shoot, shoot.
If you can coach, you can coach.
If you can cheer, you can cheer.
If you can play, you can play.
And yeah, I kind of saw it, and I messaged Josh and Craig, my two best friends at the time, and kind of started thinking about tweeting. And they said, "Are you sure?" Because, like I said, when you're going through that, your internal struggles and battling those inner demons, the worst possible thing is that someone will find out, or someone might think. And Josh is a lawyer, so he's very good at writing things. So we went into the notes app, and I kind of wrote everything I wanted to write and sent it to him, and he sent it back and changed a few things. I sent it kind of back and forth for a couple of days. And then I sent it to Craig, and I said, what do you think? And he went, yeah. And I kind of said, okay, I'm going to tweet at 10 a.m. on Sunday. I think I ended up drafting the tweet the night before and just leaving it there and set an alarm for 10. I literally woke up, pressed the tweet button, and I remember walking into the living room, and then obviously it came up on Critch's phone, and he was like, "How'd you feel?" I was like I need a hug. He gave me a big hug. For me, the response from my teammates was perfect. I couldn't have asked for more.
The Storm take the ice, huge ovation. You got to mention Zach Sullivan, obviously, on Twitter today, coming out that he's bisexual. What a courageous and very proud to call that guy my teammate.
The worst thing that could have happened was my teammates seeing me differently.
Zach Sullivan there, you mentioned how proud his teammates are. Of course, everyone around the Elite League as well, quick to send their messages of support as well, which is fantastic to see.
Dallas Earhart was captain that year, and he always did the puck drops. He said, "The boys want you to do it."
Yeah, standing ovation for Zach Sullivan. Pretty amazing, pretty groundbreaking activity this weekend.
But no, I think the day itself, I wouldn't want to relive it because of the sheer up and down of emotions all day. But yeah, I think it probably went as well as it ever could have gone.
I think it was a sign that the hockey fan base is ready to accept anyone. What I hope to see is the next player then, and I think we'll start seeing a snowball effect, hopefully from there, where, like I say, people are just comfortable that the hockey community is going to back them.
There's not a lot of players that have come out and spoken about their sexuality. Obviously, it takes a lot of courage for him to come out and talk about it openly. You know, hopefully the fact that he came out maybe will show some courage to someone else to do the same thing.
I got text after the game from my dad. Gonna get emotional. And he said, "We're very proud of you. You're still our little boy." And sorry. I think that was their way of saying it was the right thing to do. I think looking back, if I hadn't done it, I would have regretted it.
I think it's important to not forget about those guys who are definitely out there, who would love to feel safe in the sport that they play and love to be who they are while they're still playing, not after they retire from the game.
How many players stopped playing hockey because they were LGBT and didn't think they could? Well, Brock's one. Picked for #1 draft pick his draft year. That's a goalie who could have played in the NHL for 10 years. Brock's phrase is, "You're having the parade before you won the cup." You're celebrating inclusivity without actually having it.
It's an interesting question as to why no one else has made that decision. It's hard to say, really. I think it's a wider issue, but maybe we have to kind of look inwards and ask a few questions as to, what more could we be doing so that we do get more players comfortable in, sort of coming out and releasing that news.
Things like Pride Tape has only been going since, 2016. We've only had Pride Nights in the UK for about the same amount of time. In the scheme of things, that's not very long to change things against what is outside of hockey an increasingly hostile world for the community.
Pride Nights going forward, I think, need to be part of conversations as well. It's maybe not just a celebration. Maybe there needs to be more input from people like that, and we maybe need to listen more to what, Zach and others and fans in the fan base feel the Pride needs to be.
I think it's such an unfortunate ingrained culture in hockey that it is this straight, largely white sport that it's so hard to be something different. But equally, I think, unfortunately, there will be, guys on teams who have very conservative political views. And being aware of that as a player who is part of the community as well must be incredibly hard. You've got to play with those people day on day.
I think we can always evolve and get better. I'm sure there's lots of areas where, our inclusivity could be better. I think we're, getting pretty close there, but we want everyone to feel welcome, not only coming, but also players, if they are a part of that LGBTQ community, to feel welcome to, come out and talk about their sexuality openly.
If we can make this space in this one rink a safe space, not just on Pride Night, but every week for the LGBTQ community, well, that's one step. That's a massive step compared to some of the outside world. If we can then make it so those young players coming through can be who they are, can be out if they choose to be, and still play at the top of their game, that would be the dream going forward, I think.
I think you get bogged down in sports so much with little things that don't really matter. It can get so negative, and then you have a night like Pride Night where this does matter to so many people, and it is really important to so many people. It's just bigger. It's just something that transcends the club, the sport. It hits me in the feels.
You know, there are very few people my age who are publicly out as gay or bisexual or LGBT+, who still actively play sports, whether that be at a professional level or an amateur level. And I do think that's a concern, and it should be a concern, that sport is not inclusive enough. Slightly darker side of the conversation, but I think it's always important to have is, you know, the attempted suicide rate and suicide rate in LGBT plus youth is something like 4 or 5 times than straight youth. If they feel they can't play sport just because of their sexuality, I think that's a genuine discussion worth having. And until LGBT plus youth feel comfortable, I think it's a conversation that should always be had.